Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, beloved listeners, have you ever felt that time is quietly watching you, measuring your choices, weighing your patience, and slowly deciding your future? Have you ever wondered why some people move closer to freedom with every passing year, while others, despite earning more, sink deeper into invisible chains? And what if I told you that one small piece of plastic, something you carry so casually in your wallet, might be silently shaping your destiny, one decision at a time? There was a time, not very long ago, when money felt like a distant dream, not the kind you chase with excitement, but the kind you whisper about, hoping one day it notices you. I remember standing in a small room, with big ambitions, but an empty pocket. And in those days, survival was not a strategy. It was a daily battle. Bills would arrive, like uninvited guests, always on time, always demanding attention. And income, well, it was irregular, uncertain, and often insufficient. Like many others, I believed that if I could just earn a little more, everything would fall into place. But life has a strange way of teaching us that more income does not always mean more peace. One day, I was introduced to something that felt like magic: a credit card. It was presented as a solution, a shortcut, a tool for convenience. Buy now, pay later, they said. And in that moment, it didn't feel like borrowing. It felt like progress. It felt like I was finally stepping into a better life. But what no one tells you is that debt does not enter your life with noise. It arrives quietly, politely, almost like a friend. It gives you what you want, before you've truly earned it, and slowly, without you realizing, it begins to take control of your choices. At first, it was small things: a dinner here, a gadget there, things that felt deserved, justified. After all, I was working hard, wasn't I? Don't we all deserve a little comfort? And this is where the mind plays its most dangerous game. It convinces you that borrowing is harmless, as long as it feels good. But the truth, the dark truth, is that every swipe of that card is not just a transaction. It's a promise from your future self, to pay for the happiness of your present self. And if your future is not ready, if your discipline is not strong, that promise becomes a burden. I learned this lesson not through books, but through pain. There came a time when the statements started arriving. Numbers that didn't make sense, amounts that felt heavier than they should. And suddenly, the freedom I thought I had began to feel like a cage. Minimum payments became a habit, and interest became a silent enemy, growing stronger every single day. You see, credit cards don't just charge you money. They charge you time. They steal your future hours, your future efforts, your future peace. And the worst part is that you don't even notice it happening until it's too late. I remember nights, staring at the ceiling, wondering how something so small and could create such a big storm in my life. There was fear, there was regret, and there was a deep sense of helplessness. Because no one teaches you how to escape once you're trapped. They only teach you how to enter. And in those quiet moments, and I realized something powerful: the problem was never the credit card. The problem was my mindset. I was trying to live a life I hadn't yet earned. I was chasing comfort. Without building discipline, I was seeking results. Without respecting the process, and that is where most people fall. Not because they are weak, but because they are unaware. We live in a world that celebrates spending, but rarely teaches saving. A world that encourages instant gratification, but ignores the beauty of patience. And when you combine that mindset with easy access to credit. You create a cycle that is very difficult to break. I've seen people earning more than they ever imagined, yet feeling poorer than ever before. Not because they lack income, but because they lack control, because they never learned that true wealth is not about how much you can spend, but how much you can keep, how wisely you can grow it, and how patiently you can wait. There was a man I once knew, hardworking, honest, full of dreams. He started a small business, with hope in his eyes and courage in his heart. But when things didn't go as planned, when sales were slow and expenses were high, he turned to credit. Just for a while. Just to survive. But survival turned into dependency, and dependency turned into a burden he couldn't carry. The business failed, not because he lacked talent, but because he underestimated the weight of borrowed money. And that's when it truly hit me. Debt does not just affect your finances, it affects your decisions. It makes you impatient, desperate, reactive. It takes away your ability to think long-term, because you're constantly trying to fix short-term problems. And investing, true investing, requires the exact opposite. It requires patience, discipline, clarity, and the courage to wait. But how can you think about investing when your mind is occupied with payments? How can you focus on building wealth when you're busy escaping debt? This is the trap that no one talks about. Credit cards are not evil, but they are dangerous. In the hands of an undisciplined mind, they amplify your habits, whether good or bad. If you have control, they can be useful. But if you don't, they can quietly destroy years of hard work. And the saddest part is that most people realize this only after they've paid the price. I made mistakes, many of them. I chased quick solutions. I ignored long-term consequences, and I paid for it, not just in money, but in peace of mind. But those mistakes, they became my greatest teachers. They taught me that wealth is not built in moments of excitement, but in years of consistency. That success is not about speed, but about direction. And that true freedom does not come from spending, but from control. Slowly, I began to change. I stopped using credit, not because I couldn't, but because I chose not to. I started living below my means, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. I embraced discomfort because I knew that short-term sacrifice leads to long-term peace. And something beautiful happened. For the first time, I felt in control, not of the world, but of myself. And that, dear listeners, is where the journey truly begins. Because once you begin to regain control over yourself, over your impulses, over your silent urges to impress others, something shifts deep within you. You start to see money differently, not as a tool for pleasure, but as a tool for freedom. And freedom is not loud, it is quiet, patient, almost invisible in the beginning. There is a phase in life where you will do everything right, and still, nothing seems to change. You cut your expenses. You avoid unnecessary spending. You resist the temptation of easy credit. And yet, your bank balance moves slowly, painfully slowly. This is where most people give up, because the world has conditioned us to expect quick results. We want fast success, instant rewards, immediate validation. But wealth, real wealth, does not operate on your timeline. It operates on principles. And one of those principles is delayed gratification. There were days when I would sit with my thoughts, watching others enjoy luxuries, travel, dine, upgrade their lives, while I chose restraint. Not because I didn't want those things, but because I understood something they didn't. Every no I said in the present was a yes to my future. And let me tell you, that no is not easy. It requires strength, the kind of strength that no one applauds, the kind of discipline that no one notices. You will not receive recognition for paying off your debt quietly. No one will celebrate the nights you stayed home instead of spending money you didn't have. But those silent sacrifices, they compound, just like money does. You see, most people understand compound interest only in theory. They know it grows money over time, but they fail to realize it also grows habits, good or bad. If you consistently rely on credit, your dependency compounds. If you consistently practice discipline, your strength compounds. And over time, these small, invisible choices create a massive difference in your life. There was a point where the results were still invisible. No major breakthroughs, no sudden wealth, just quiet progress. And that is the hardest part of the journey. When you are doing everything right, but nothing seems to reward you. This is where character is built. Because anyone can stay disciplined when results are visible. But only a few can stay committed when results are hidden. I remember paying off a significant portion of my debt and feeling nothing. No excitement, no celebration, just a quiet relief. And in that moment, I realized something profound. True progress is often silent. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't seek attention. It simply builds, layer by layer, day by day. And slowly, that burden that once felt overwhelming began to fade. The weight became lighter. The stress became manageable. And for the first time, I could breathe without thinking about what I owed. That's when your mind opens up again. That's when you start thinking beyond survival, and that's when investing finally makes sense. Because investing is not just about money. It's about mindset. It's about having the patience to let your efforts grow. It's about trusting the process, even when you cannot see the outcome. But this level of thinking is impossible when you are trapped in the cycle of debt. Debt forces urgency. Investing requires patience. Debt creates pressure. Investing demands calmness. Debt makes you reactive. Investing rewards those who are thoughtful. And once you truly understand this difference, you begin to respect your money in a completely new way. You stop asking, "What can I buy?" And you start asking, "What can this money become?" That one question changes everything. Because now, your focus shifts from consumption to creation, from short-term pleasure to long-term vision. And that vision is what separates those who struggle forever from those who eventually find peace. But let me be honest with you, this journey is not glamorous. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, moments when you feel like you're missing out, when the world around you seems to be moving faster, enjoying more, achieving quicker results. And in those moments, you must remind yourself, you are not in a race. You are building a life, and a life built with patience, with discipline, with purpose, will always outlast. A life built on impulse. I have seen people who looked successful on the outside, expensive cars, luxury lifestyles, endless spending, but behind closed doors, they were drowning, not in poverty, but in pressure. Because when your lifestyle is funded by debt, your peace is always temporary, and peace is the ultimate form of wealth. Not the kind you show, but the kind you feel. The kind that allows you to sleep without worry, to wake up without fear, to make decisions without pressure, and that kind of wealth cannot be borrowed. It must be built slowly, patiently, intentionally. So if you are in that phase right now, where progress feels slow, where discipline feels heavy, where results feel distant, know this: you are on the right path. Every small step, every sacrifice, every moment of restraint is shaping a future that most people will never experience, a future of control, of clarity, of calm confidence. And one day, without realizing it, you will look back and see how far you've come, and in that quiet moment of reflection, something within you will finally settle, not with excitement, not with noise, but with a deep, grounded sense of peace. Because you will realize that the struggle was never against money. It was against yourself, your impulses, your fears, your need for approval, your desire for things that never truly mattered. And now, those chains are gone. You begin to walk differently, think differently, choose differently. Not because you are trying to prove something to the world, but because you have nothing left to prove. There's a calm confidence that comes from knowing you are no longer controlled by money, but guided by it. You no longer chase opportunities out of desperation. You evaluate them with patience. You no longer spend to feel better. You invest to become better. You no longer fear the future because you have prepared for it quietly, consistently, without seeking attention. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this journey is the simplicity it brings. You stop complicating life. You begin to appreciate the things that cannot be bought: time, freedom, clarity, relationships, inner silence. You realize that wealth was never about having more. It was about needing less. And in that realization, there is immense power. Because when your needs are few, your control becomes strong. And when your control is strong, your life becomes stable. There will still be challenges. Of course there will. Life does not promise ease. It promises lessons. But now, you face those lessons with strength, not fear, with wisdom, not confusion, because you understand something now that most people spend their entire lives chasing without ever finding. Money is not the goal. Peace is, and money, when used wisely, or simply becomes a tool to protect that peace, to expand it, to sustain it. You begin to see opportunities where others see risk. You begin to act with patience, while others react with urgency. You begin to trust time instead of fighting it, and slowly, almost beautifully, your life aligns, not in a dramatic overnight transformation, but in a steady, reliable rhythm. The kind that brings stability, the kind that builds confidence, the kind that allows you to move forward without hesitation. You no longer need shortcuts, because you have become the long-term thinker. You no longer seek validation, because you have found clarity within. And perhaps the most powerful change of all, you are no longer afraid of missing, because you understand that everything you truly need cannot be taken away, and everything that can be taken away was never truly yours. So you live, not in excess, but in balance, not in fear, but in awareness, not in haste, but in patience. And in that space, in that quiet, grounded space, you find something that no credit card, no loan, no amount of borrowed money could ever give you: freedom, real, lasting, unshakable freedom. Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, beloved listeners, if you have walked this journey with patience, if you have felt the weight of those words, then you already understand that this was never just about credit cards. It was about choices, small choices, repeated daily, shaping a life you either control or slowly surrender. The world will always offer you ease, convenience, shortcuts that feel like progress. It will tell you, you deserve more. You deserve it now. You can always pay later. And many will follow that path, not because they are careless, but because they are never taught to see beyond the moment. But you are different now. You have seen the hidden cost, the silent burden, the invisible chains that come with borrowed comfort. And more importantly, you have seen the power of restraint, the quiet strength of discipline, the beauty of waiting. Because true wealth is not built in excitement. It is built in stillness. It is built when no one is watching, when no one is praising, when no one even knows. The sacrifices you are making, it is built in those moments, when you choose long-term peace over short-term pleasure, and over time, those choices begin to compound. Not just in your bank account, but in your character. You become someone who thinks before acting, someone who values growth over appearance, someone who understands that money is not a tool to impress the world, but a responsibility to protect your future. And slowly, your life transforms, not into something flashy, not into something loud, but into something solid, something unbreakable, something deeply peaceful. You wake up without anxiety. You make decisions without pressure. You look at money, not with fear or obsession, but with calm understanding. And that is abundance. Not the abundance of things but the abundance of clarity. Not the abundance of spending, but the abundance of control. Not the abundance of noise, but the abundance of inner peace. So as you move forward from this moment, carry this with you. Be patient, even when progress feels slow. Be disciplined, even when temptation feels strong. Be consistent, even when results are invisible. And above all, be intentional with every decision you make. Because your future is not created in one big moment. It is quietly built, day by day, choice by choice, thought by thought, and one day you will look back, not with regret, but with gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons, the struggles, the discipline, the patience that shaped you into someone who didn't just chase wealth, but understood it. And in that understanding, you will find something far greater than money, a life of purpose, a mind of clarity, and a heart at peace.